deck, puts up the three. So silky smooth, and he's got himself another one. Shea gets it, spins away, baseline shot. Shea puts it in and walks it off in OKC. Giddey keeps it himself and takes it up as he glides with the finger roll.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Uncontested Postgame Podcast Edition. I'm your host for tonight, Justin, as the Thunder beat the Utah Jazz 130 to 103. I want to let you know first that we are proudly part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and dailythunder.com. So if you don't already, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. A much-needed bounce-back win for the Thunder, a much-needed bounce-back game from multiple players on the Thunder against the Utah Jazz team, who has not looked great lately, but we know what happened last time. Oklahoma City played in a dogfight in Utah, went to overtime. Utah came out victorious. Tonight, Oklahoma City shorthanded, as we're all probably well aware. No Shea, no Kenny Hustle. This team is not operating at full strength, and yet they came out with a victory, ending their 5-game losing streak, a much-needed win. 5 big takeaways for tonight. Number 1, running away with it. Number 2, J-Dub step up. Number 3, returns to form. Number 4, the kids are all right. And last but not least, number 5, the final countdown. But before we dive into those, let's go through the game summary. Oklahoma City came out and ran away with this thing wire to wire. Oklahoma City shoots 5 of 6 from 3 to lead 17-8 to start this one right out of the gate. Oklahoma City came out firing. Isaiah Joe had a couple threes. Dort had a 3. Jay Will opened the game with a 3-pointer. Everybody was knocking it in. And that kind of continued for most of the night. Oklahoma City shoots as a team nearly 40%, 39.5% from the floor. Oklahoma City goes up by double digits in the second quarter and really never looks back. OKC outscored Utah 34-29 in the first quarter. A whopping 33-23 in the second quarter. 30-32, they get outscored by the Jazz in the third before outscoring Utah 33-19. Oklahoma City gets 30+ in every single quarter tonight. The team was clicking on all cylinders. Lauri Markkanen, not so much. Lauri ends with 20 points. And if you just look at the stat line, you're like, okay, that was probably pretty good. 0 points for Lauri for most, if not all, of the first half, I believe. A really, really strong performance from OKC adapting to Lauri Markkanen after he dropped 40 on them last time out. Walker Kessler, another guy who did some serious damage to the Thunder in Utah. 10 points, 11 boards, 4 blocks. Not bad numbers by any stretch, but a far cry from where Oklahoma City was the last time these two teams met. And the good news looking ahead, they're going to meet again. One of those fun baseball-style series this season. Oklahoma City will face Utah on Sunday night, and we'll get to do it all again. But for now, let's dive in deeper to this one. I have to start with running away with it. Oklahoma City came out with an agenda tonight. As they often do, coming off of games that were not stellar performances, you see this team respond, and that's really encouraging as a fan. Oklahoma City knew they needed to make some adjustments coming out of the last showing against Utah. Also, shout out A-Man in the chat. I knew we was going to cook when I heard Justin was covering this one. Can I just say, someone else said something similar on Twitter as soon as I said I was on the keys for tonight's game. They said, oh, we back. It feels good to have that reputation. Like 2 years ago, I was like Silva, where we lost and got blown out every time I covered a game. We've come a long way. But this game, running away with it. What I mean by that, Oklahoma City wanted to push the pace and force turnovers. And they did both of those things excellently tonight. And that was a huge factor in the Thunder dominating this game. Oklahoma City forces 26 turnovers. That's a season high, which led to 32 points off of turnovers. They combined that with 27 fast break points. Aaron Wiggins, Bally Sports Player of the Game on the broadcast tonight, gets interviewed a little bit afterwards, and he called this out as an intentional mindset coming into this game. They were disrupting Utah. They were not letting them get comfortable. It was everybody. Certain guys had great individual performances, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But it really was a team effort in order to shut down guys like Lauri Markkanen, guys like Walker Kessler. Oklahoma City doesn't really have a guy on the roster right now who can go toe-to-toe with Walker Kessler. It takes a team. Same for Lauri Markkanen. The dude's a 7-foot freak who can score from anywhere. Lou Dort can't do it on his own. He did a great job tonight, but it takes everybody. Everybody's got to be pulling on the rope in the same direction. And Oklahoma City did that tonight. Pushing the pace is the other thing that's really exciting. This team's young, man. This team's so young. Their legs should be able to go toe-to-toe with anybody and give them an advantage most nights. Pushing the pace, finding easy baskets, pushing the pace after turnovers is a really great way to offset other deficits. We know about the lack of size. That's a great way to overcome that. If Walker Kessler is still trying to catch up to the play, he's not going to stuff you as many times as he did in Utah. That's a huge advantage for OKC. Utah obviously has that advantage when you play up there with the altitude coming off of All-Star break. There's lots of factors you could point to as to why things looked differently. But the biggest thing is Oklahoma City came in with a specific mindset and they executed on it. They had a plan and they stuck to it. And they rebounded from what happened last time. And they wanted to run. And they were able to impose their will on the Jazz. And I think for such a young team to have that kind of bounce back mentality, put the last game behind them and come execute what they want to do, coming off of bad performances, they've done it over and over and over this season. And I think that's really encouraging sign. And I think it speaks to our favorite phrase, Thunder culture. This team's got a great winning culture. And that was on full display tonight. Takeaway number 2, J-Dub steps up. That's a very weak dubstep pun hidden in there. Shouts if you caught that. J-Dub tonight. What a stat line. Stuffed in every sense of the word. J-Dub, 20 points off 8 of 13 shooting, 1 of 2 from behind the arc, 3 of 4 from the stripe, 6 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, 1 block in 33 minutes. He's a plus 20, team high plus 20 on the single night, plus minus. An absolutely unbelievable performance from J-Dub. The numbers are great. The numbers don't even capture what happened tonight if you saw it. The way he's moving around the court, the way he's being aggressive and fighting for his own shot, the way he's hitting more outside shots, the way he's defending and locked in on the defensive end, causing turnovers, pushing fast breaks, making things disruptive, finding guys with passes. He is quite literally doing it all. With SGA out, this young team needs somebody to step up. J-Dub stepped up in a big way tonight. J-Dub was doing it all. And I think it's impossible to overstate how exciting it is to watch him at this point for Thunder fans. You listen to this podcast, you probably hear it literally every episode because we're so genuinely excited about it that I haven't been this excited about a Thunder rookie in a long time. He's so much fun. He has 20 points in 3 straight games, 4 of his last 5. Great stat from Nick Gallo. Jalen Williams now has the second most points in a season for a rookie in Thunder history. That's some context for you. He's gotten a ton of opportunity. Not all Thunder rookies, as we know, historically get as much opportunity as J-Dub has, but he's made the most of it. He has capitalized on it, and it's impossible to look at him right now and not see where his ceiling is at. What an absolute steal from Sam Presti. I think his contributions to this team are going to be felt for a long time to come. I think he is an absolute star in the making. I think his ability to contribute in so many different facets and make himself useful in so many different ways, I think it is so captivating. I think it's exciting, partly because he's come in and looked so NBA ready. I've said it before, but I think some of that comes from the fact that he is older. He's older than Josh Giddey. Jacob said that on the last postgame podcast, and it always weirds me out when I'm reminded of that. He's older than Josh Giddey. So we're used to seeing mega young, mega raw rookies on this Thunder team. Josh Giddey, Poku, Baisley, all incredibly young and incredibly inexperienced. None of those guys played in an NCAA school. It's a different experience to have J-Dub now in this position. But it's still not hard to see where this is heading. Like, yes, he's coming in with like a little bit higher level than maybe what we've seen. He's a little bit older. He's a little more polished, but there's so much potential there. The sky is the limit on J-Dub, and I'm freaking psyched to continue to watch it. I think back to like the first iteration of the Thunder, and this is not a unique story or like some cool scouting that I did. Like, I was just a kid, but like when they drafted Russ, it was like, yes, instantly. I was like, yes, that's the guy. And that's kind of how I feel about J-Dub. It's like just seeing him now, he's not a perfect player, but there's so much potential there, and he's so much fun to watch. You can't help but love it. Can't help but love it. I could spend all night talking about J-Dub, but we have 3 more points to get through first. Point number 3, returns to form. We're going to start with the most dramatic return to form. Let's talk about Lou. Lou against Dort tonight. Really, really impressive on the defensive end against Lauri Markkanen. Not an easy matchup for Lou. Lou can guard anybody in the NBA. He's done so. He has proven that over multiple seasons. Lauri's a tough guard for anybody. Lauri's 7 feet tall. He can do lots of things that 7-footers shouldn't be able to do, and he just dropped 40 on the Thunder's head barely a week ago. That's a tough matchup for Lou, and he was very, very impressive in the first half, especially against Lauri tonight, defending. Offensively, he looked more in sync. He looked more in control. He looked more choiceful. 19 points for Lou tonight off 7 of 14 shooting, 4 of 9 from behind the arc, 2 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block in 34 minutes. A really well-rounded game from Lou. There's a lot of really well-rounded performance up and down this stat sheet, but I don't think anybody needed it more than Lou Dort needed it. And maybe the Thunder fan base needed it. We love Lou. Everybody loves Lou. But man, it had been tough to watch Lou play over the last week or so. He was having a bad stretch. You know, one of the worst stretches of this season. What's encouraging about tonight is you always love to see a guy kind of snap out of it, to bounce back, to progress to the mean rather than regress to the mean. I think that's positive. You want to see that. I think more than that is you start to see guys when they get in like an extended funk, which Lou had been in kind of a bit of an extended funk. You start to wonder, you know, what's real? Is it the stuff I've seen in the past, or is it the funk I'm seeing now? And the more games that adds up, the harder that question is to answer. So seeing him do this tonight, it's like a nice refresher, right? It's like a cold shower, kind of wakes you up and snaps you out of it. And it's like, oh yeah, this is Lou. We've seen him do this. He's done it for most of the season. It's a good reminder. I think there's still been some very valid questions asked about Lou Dort and his long-term fit on the team. I think that those are very fair questions to ask. I think we were asking those questions, some people, even when he was playing really well. I think you look at this team and the makeup and the type of guys they're going after and the type of style they're playing. And I think there's an argument there that maybe there's better fits than Lou Dort down the road. He's still an incredible defender. He's still a great piece for this team. I think we got reminded of that tonight. I also want to talk about Giddey. Josh Giddey, he played well in the last game, but he had a pretty rough stretch, or a rough game at least before that. Tonight, Josh Giddey, 18 points off 8 of 17 shooting, 6 boards, 13 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Another really well-rounded game for Josh Giddey. He's Giddeying Josh Giddey. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Josh Giddey with a really well-rounded game. Much better. A nice bounce-back performance for Giddey tonight. Again, a guy that's had ups and downs. He's super young. Like I just said, he's younger than J-Dub. And when you say that, it doesn't seem like it should be true, but it is. He's played more NBA action than J-Dub, absolutely. But he's still incredibly young, incredibly raw. He's going to be inconsistent. What you want to see is progress. And tonight, some sick passes from Josh Giddey, as you always expect to see from him. Some nice choices with shot making, some nice moves in the post, some nice passes in the post. Got a handful of rebounds tonight. He felt like he was being really aggressive, especially in the first half. It felt like he was really trying to use his size and go for a shot. That's what excites me when he remembers that he's 6'8", 6'9", and he can do that to other guards in the NBA. David Skelton in the chat. I'm not being critical. I just want to see Summer League posterizing Josh. That guy was so cool. Me too. That size is there. Finding that aggression is going to unlock a different dimension to Josh's game. We see it in flashes, but I want to see more of it. And I think especially with Shea out, I think that's where some of the frustration comes from for Thunder fans watching this team. You hear that Shea's out and you half expect, all right, it's Giddey time. Like, let's see Josh step up. Let's see him be aggressive. Let's see him do these things that we always kind of think he can do, but maybe he's just not doing because Shea's on the floor and Shea is Shea. Maybe he's just not there yet. And I think that's kind of been the reminder with Shea out is the rawness of Josh Giddey. There's still tons of potential. There's still tons of upside, but there's still a long way to go. He's super young and super raw, and there's going to continue to be ups and downs. But tonight, a really solid performance. Would love, like David in the chat said, would love to see increased aggression from Josh moving forward. But you cannot deny what he brings to this team. A very, very strong performance from Josh Giddey tonight. A couple other stat lines that I want to hit on, which takes us to point number 4. The kids are all right. Kids all over this roster. Everyone's a kid other than Saric at this point. And they're all right. Oklahoma City gets contributions up and down the roster tonight. So we're going to fly through some of these young guys and what they brought to the table. We'll start with Isaiah Joe. Starting tonight, he puts in 17 points off 6 of 16 shooting. 5 of 13, which I think I saw was a season, maybe a career high in attempts from behind the arc. 2 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal. Dude's a bucket. He can light it up. Not much more needs to be said. Really impressive out of the gate. Like I said, he came out hot to start this one. He's a shooter like the Thunder have not had many of in their past. And it's incredible that the Thunder picked him up how they did in the offseason. We've gone 19 minutes on this podcast now. It's time to talk about Aaron Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins, like I mentioned, the Bally Sports player of the game. Very well deserving player of the game. Aaron Wiggins tonight, 27 points in 27 minutes off 12 of 16 shooting, 1 of 2 from behind the arc, 4 boards and 2 steals. An unreal performance from Aaron Wiggins. That is a season high, I believe, for Aaron Wiggins, like 2 off his career high. I could have butchered that, but it feels right. So we're rolling with it. Really strong game from Wiggins. It really kind of took off in the second half. He finished the game extremely strong. Continues to just like be a guy that does things, really positive things for this roster. Finds ways to contribute. I think I felt like he took a little bit of like the Kenny Hustle, like doing the dirty work type of stuff, like getting nice cuts to the basket, taking care of things on both ends of the floor. A really well-rounded performance from Wiggs. And just another really fascinating piece on this Thunder team. I think with all these young guys, there's going to be decisions that have to be made. There's going to be a lot more rookies coming through this team moving forward. those cuts get harder. And that's the point, right? Roster exploration is to continually refine and improve, refine and improve, refine and improve until you have a roster that's capable of winning a championship. Those cuts get harder every time. It's not like, years ago where you're cutting Admiral Schofield and like it's an easy choice. It gets harder. And there's going to be moments in the future, in the probably near future, where the Thunder are cutting guys that you're like, whoa, really? Like, I thought he had some potential. It's kind of how OKC got Isaiah Joe this past summer. Like, guys just have to get cut in the NBA. There's not enough spots to keep everybody that has potential. It's going to be fascinating moving forward. Other youngins on this team, Jay Will, like I mentioned, his only bucket, 3 points to start the game. He drew a charge as he always does. 1 of 6 from the floor, 9 boards, 1 assist, 2 blocks. Not a great scoring output, but that's not really what you look to Jay Will for. You look to him for the charges. You look to him for doing a little bit of the dirty work and kind of being a little bit of a connector. He did some of those things tonight. Not an outstanding game, but a solid game from Jay Will. Looking at the rest, one in particular that I wanted to call out, Ousmane Dieng, getting his first NBA action in nearly a month. He goes 21 minutes tonight, 9 points off 4 of 8 shooting, 4 boards, and 2 assists. I thought it was a solid return to the NBA. He spent some time with the Blue. He's had some pretty solid games with the Blue. Kind of similar. This is going to sound weird. Kind of similar to Giddey, not in terms of output or level of play or style of play or anything like that, but more so in potential, desire for aggression, a frame that is underutilized. I think all of those things moving forward for Oos, like I want to see him use his big body to bully some guys. He's not there yet physically. He is a child. He is quite literally a teenager, but he will get there. I think he's continuing to figure that out. I think the Blue stint has been really encouraging. Some of those performances he's had in the G League have been really strong showings, and I think that's only going to help him. But it's great to see him do some of those things, put him on paper in an NBA game, and really kind of start to show us maybe what we have with Oos. It's been a bit of a lost season for Oos. I wouldn't say a disappointment, but I think I hope to see a little more. The injuries obviously play a role with that. But I think he's definitely still one of the very fascinating prospects on this team moving forward. He is not a kid. He is the elder statesman, but I do want to talk very briefly about Saric. 11 points tonight for Saric, 4 boards, 1 assist. He's fun. He can ball. And I think his fit on this team is really intriguing. Jacob was saying it in our uncontested chat that I really wonder what his long-term fit looks like. Like when they traded for him with the Baisley deal, it felt like a throw-in, but I felt that before. Look at Kenny Hustle. Sometimes throw-ins can be long-term fits. And every game that goes by, I wonder if Dario Saric has a long-term future on this team. It's very intriguing. But enough about stats, enough about numbers, enough about players. I want to look at the big picture. Point number 5, the final countdown. We're coming up against it. There's not many games left in this here NBA season. 19 games left for the Thunder. The West is bananas. And that's what's so funny about a 5-game losing streak. Not that 5-game losing streaks are particularly funny. But with as tight as the West is, something like that just feels monumental. And I think we've seen it in like how Thunder Twitter, Thunder fans have been reacting to that losing streak because it just feels so monumental. So monumental. But with 19 games left, Oklahoma City currently sits in the 12th spot. They are only 1.5 games out of the play-in. They are 3 games out of the 7 seed. They are 3.5. No. Yeah, 3.5 out of just being in the playoffs. 3.5 games with 19 left is a steep hill. I don't think that's probably attainable, especially looking at some of the teams above them, how they're starting to play. I think that's a tough hill to climb. 1.5 is very attainable, especially like look at the loss column. As you get closer to the end of the season, just look in the loss column. Oklahoma City sits at 34 losses. The Jazz in the 10th spot, who the Thunder just beat tonight, 33 losses. They're going to play them again on Sunday. It's going to be an important one for the tiebreaker. Putting the Thunder up 2-1 in the season series would tie the Jazz at 34 losses. Oklahoma City, again, assuming that goes that way, Oklahoma City would be 30-34 versus the Jazz 31-34, but they would own the tiebreaker. That puts the Thunder on the precipice of the play-in. Like, all hope is not lost based off this 5-game losing streak. It felt that way, and I get why it felt that way, but it's not. Conversely, Oklahoma City is, sitting pretty in the tankathon odds. They're currently, I think, 9th, 8th, something like that. I don't have tankathon pulled up. They've got a good shot there. So kind of any way you slice it, whatever flavor you're feeling for the rest of the season, you can have a rooting interest pretty easily because the standings are so compressed outside of a few outliers that kind of anything could happen. And so these next 19 games are going to be huge. If you want to root for Victor Wembanyama, I say go for it. If you want to pull for a play-in, I say go for it. I'm not sure there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. It seems to me that I would lean towards Wembanyama. I know that's not a popular opinion. I know that my other co-hosts on this podcast, most of them, not all of them, like they don't agree with that either. And I think that's cool. Like, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. And honestly, it doesn't matter how I feel. All that matters is what the Thunder do. But I think that at this point, I don't know. What does that push for the play-in really do, especially with the injuries? I think it's just, it becomes what it is. Do I think the Thunder go like full on pulling levers for the next 19 games? No. Do I think you might see it in the last like 10? Maybe. I think maybe. I think depending on where this team is at and what the situation looks like, in 2 weeks' time, we're gonna see a decision made by the front office. It doesn't feel like that decision's been made yet, despite what conspiracy theorists on Twitter might tell you. I do not think Shai's injury or illness or Kenny Hustle's surgery are fake tanking moves. Like, I think those are real things that are happening. Like, sometimes people get hurt. Who knew? But I do think the organization is going to make a determination one way or another. The best example I have is look at the Trailblazers last year. They pulled the tank lever late, but they pulled it hard. They pulled it hard, and they got all the way up to the 7th best odds for the number 1 pick. Didn't work out so hot for them, but they gave it the old college try. And I think at some point you're going to have to pull that lever. And if I have to make a pick right now today where the Thunder are sitting, I think I might want to look at Scoot and Wemby and things of that nature and get really, 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 really excited for the 2023-24 season. That's all I got for you tonight, people. Like I said, the next up for the Thunder, the Jazz staying in town. We'll get a rematch against Utah Sunday night. Make sure to tune in afterwards for our weekly show. Check us out live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, or check us out immediately following in your podcast platform of choice. Wherever you consume your content, love for you to subscribe. We love hanging out with y'all. We love interacting with y'all. It's been a blast this season as it starts to fade towards a close. Stick around. It's going to be a fun summer. Lots more to discuss and break down with this team as they continue to develop for the future. So make sure you're around for all of it. Appreciate everybody in the chat tonight. Appreciate all the comments and interactions. And until next time, and as always, Thunder up.